I think overall, sports-wise, it's the absolute debacle, the collapse of Germany, not just the fact that they went out, but the way it actually happened. But, I mean, beyond that, obviously, Argentina also a meltdown. Russia's a tremendous run to this stage with them knocking out Spain was something I think few had anticipated. And I think overall, just a general sense that, the gap between the traditional superpowers and the rest of the field is nowhere near what it used to be.
And do you feel that the vibe on the ground there is that Russia has managed to get into these quarterfinals on merit?
Certainly not among the Russian football fans. I mean, they're very much gung-ho and very much into this. Look, my impression is they were drawn into a very poor group to begin with. They played a physical defensive style against some pretty bad teams. They beat teams that, apart from Egypt, but then Mohamed Salah was injured, teams they generally expected to beat. And then, they pulled off this masterpiece against Spain. But remember, they did it by playing ultra defensive. Spain missed some chances and ultimately was on penalties. Personally, I don't see anything sinister to it right now anyway, if that's what you're driving at.
All right, so tomorrow's match between France and Uruguay kicks off the quarterfinals, and there seems to be some news coming out of Uruguay's camp with the health of Cavani. What is the latest on his calf injury?
Well, he's still very much touch and go. I mean, it's one of those situations, I think, with that type of injury, you're really going to end up evaluating him in the morning and seeing how he is. It's not something that you're necessarily going to aggravate. But then again, it's a World Cup quarterfinal, so if you have to run a risk, you might just be tempted to do it.
Who's the favorite at this point? We mentioned all of the favorites coming in who are now out of the World Cup. Who would you say is the favorite at this stage in the game?
So here's the thing. Obviously, one side of the draw, because of the upsets early on, is simply much, much tougher than the other. So Brazil, Belgium, and France, for my money, probably maybe they're the three strongest teams left in the competition, but they're all on the same size of the draw, so they're going to knock each other out. On the other side, you've got England, you have Croatia, possibly the front runners from that side. For me, it's whoever gets out of the Brazil side of the draw, and I think on paper, I'd go with Brazil right now.
Gab, now you're standing in front of that beautiful shot of Moscow right there, and I'm curious as to what the response has been to the quality of tournament that Russia has been able to put on, speaking not of the quality of the football, but the quality of the infrastructure that they've put on and the tournament in general.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I think speaking to the Russians here, they're not surprised. They're like, wait, what were you concerned about? This is fine. This is normal. I had a taste of this myself last summer when I was here for the Confederations Cup. I think in terms of the foreign media, we got those doom and gloom stories about hooligans going and fighting in the woods and coming in and ruining the games. And, we had stories about racism, which thankfully haven't materialized yet. So I think a lot of people are pleasantly surprised in terms of the infrastructure, the logistics. These cities are spick and span. I mean, right in these streets behind me where I'm talking to you now, Kate, people come by and they sweep the streets every 6 to 8 hours. They really want to put on a good show, and I think they've succeeded in that part. Now, whether it stays like this after the World Cup, who knows?